Morning, WNWN,
Tom Brady.
So proud of the fact that we are the most diverse. We also have to be proud that we're the most inclusive.
Welcome to the latest edition of Salem State University Viking Voices, where we highlight the many great things going on at this exciting institution and among the alumni community. This special edition features an event recorded live December 4, 2018 at the Petrowski Room, Marsh Hall. Jon von Tetzchner, founder of Opera Software and Vivaldi Technologies, is interviewed by Professor Rob Brown of the Salem State Media and Communications Department. Julie Whitlow, Ph.D., Assistant Provost for the Global Engagement Center and for International Education, performs the introduction. Stick around after the proceedings to learn how you can be a part of the many exciting things going on today at Salem State and be a force in the expansion and continuation of the mission of the university.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Julie Whitlow. I am the Assistant Provost for Global Engagement here at Salem State, and I'm pleased to welcome you to our first Global Engagement Forum, sponsored by the Center for International Education. We thank our president, John Keenan, for being here with us today and for having such interest in global activities and international education at Salem State. We also have Domingo Dominguez, Salem City Councilor at Large, and some international scholars from China, as well as some international students and faculty members from Salem State. So thank you all for joining us. You may know that the mission of Salem State is in part to prepare a diverse community of learners to contribute responsibly and creatively to a global society. We at the CIE, and I thank my CIE colleagues who are also here, contribute to that mission by creating programs and opportunities for our students and the community to engage with people and ideas that are indeed shaping our world. We hope to bring speakers to our campus whose lives and work transcend boundaries. Sometimes we are fortunate to have such individuals living not too far away. One such person is our guest today, Jon von Tetzchner. Although born in Iceland, educated in Norway, and a frequent world traveler, Jon lives just a few miles to our north in the Magnolia section of Gloucester. Moderating the questions today and answers with Jon is my dear colleague, Dr. Rob Brown. Rob has been a professor in the Media and Communication Department at Salem State since 1997. Because of his multifaceted life's work, Rob was just featured in the December issue of Salem Magazine, so if you haven't seen that, catch it. Because of his interesting and unconventional career. He's a former speechwriter for 3 Fortune 100 companies. He's the author of The Public Relations of Everything. He's a faculty advisor to the Public Relations Student Society of America and the recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Publicity Club of New England. Thank you, Rob. So Rob will interview our guest, Jon von Tetzchner, and then we will have some time for you to ask some questions of Jon. Technology is certainly an area of life, and in such a short time. When I was in college, we used a typewriter, got paper cards out of the library, right, Jan, we called home on a payphone if we were out of town. It was a different world than students experience. And I'm not even that old. So technology obviously has revolutionized everything about how we live, work, communicate, and many would say think. Jon von Tetzchner has been at the forefront of the coming of age of technology and a thought leader in current discussions surrounding its ethics and advances. Jon co-founded Opera Software in 1995 and was the CEO of the company from 1995 to 2010. During his time as CEO, Opera became the world leader in the field of mobile device browsers, as well as PC browsers in certain territories. The company also became widely recognized for its innovations and for being ahead of the curve on technology. At its peak, Opera reached 350 million active users of its browser. In 2013, Jon co-founded Vivaldi Technologies, and the Vivaldi web browser was launched in April of 2016. The Vivaldi browser is feature-rich, and places the user in control. Jon is a firm promoter of the open web standards, and universal access. Jon was named as a member of the Forum for Young Global Leaders in 2005 and was named as one of Business Week's Stars of Europe in 2004. In 2009, Jon was named one of the top 40 leaders shaping the mobile communications industry by analyst firm Informa, and as one of the top 15 mobile influencers by GigaOM, a blog-related media company. In 2011, Jon was awarded the honorary Rosing Award, the most prestigious awards in the Norwegian IT industry, awarded by the Norwegian Computer Society. Jon is a self-confessed geek with a big interest in gadgets, high-tech devices, and whose interest in computers started early. While traveling around the world, while you and I are at the beach, Jon is searching local stores for gadgets, right? We thank you for being here, and thank you, Rob, and we hope to have a very interesting discussion on these topics. Thanks.
Put this on. Can people hear me in the back? Is this?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for being here. It's been delightful to meet you and get to know you a little. I'm reading from a tech trade, I believe, and it actually could be your wiki. It could be the Wikipedia. Under his leadership, Jon took Opera into a global company with more than 750 employees in 13 countries. Opera was an early pioneer in mobile web browser, and more than 350 million people use Opera to enjoy the web in their own terms. That's amazing. But to me, the more interesting thing, just to begin with, is something else that you did that made me laugh when I saw it. And this is it. On April 21st, 2005, Tetzchner proclaimed at an internal meeting of Opera, and this may not be true. This could be on the internet. This may not be true. At an internal meeting of Opera software, and this is the old days, I know it's Vivaldi now, so bear with me. You proclaimed at a meeting of Opera software that if the download numbers of the browser's new version of Opera 8, you know what I'm going to say, reach 1 million within 4 days, this is what you said, that you would swim across the Atlantic Ocean from Norway to the United States. 2 days later, it says, on the 23rd, the downloads reached 1,050,000, and you had to fulfill the challenge. The Opera site covered the swim, and your quick failure.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, the things that they put on Wikipedia. But the reality, it was a really fun story. Yes, definitely, I had to go swimming. And we set a goal, right? We set a goal, and I went swimming, and there was a slight hiccup. So the guy that got me into trouble was the PR guy. You should never tell anything to a PR guy. So the PR guy, he got me into trouble, so he had to join me on the trip. And he was supposed to be in a small raft. And then there was a hole in the raft, he couldn't swim, which is the reason, otherwise I would have finished.
I'm sorry, I have to continue. I'm a PR guy, I have to do some follow-up with this. You actually went into the water.
Yeah.
But wait, it's cold up there.
In April, definitely, it's cold in the water in Norway, I can tell you that.
So you were in there, not getting hypothermia, and how long were you in the water? This is important.
I mean, it was about a day, I guess. That's what the story says. I'll stick with that.
Well, it's a great story, and you reached a million, and that was just the beginning. So I have some questions in different areas I want to ask you about, but I thought that was just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So really, I want, and I think thanks to Provost Whitlow, my office mate from many years ago, who has a global vision, and we have the president of the university here, John Keenan. John, how many countries are we associated with? Many.
60.
About 55.
About 55, Julie? About 55 countries. This is a regional comprehensive university, but yet we are global too. And I think we have 20 or 30 arrangements with Chinese companies. But you were born in Iceland.
Yep.
And I don't know when, I'm going to learn some things too. I don't know when you went to Norway, but I've written that you went to Norway to gain a global presence, but I don't know. And I want you to tell folks about your career journey. The thing about the career journey is that there is no career path exactly. There's no career ladder that you climb up one to the other and go this way. You do all kinds of different things. So how did you get from Iceland to Norway to start building the 17-year journey? Tell people about this. Some of these are entrepreneurship students, some of them are business students, management, all kinds of people. How did you do this?
So, I mean, it starts with me being in Iceland, right? So my mother is Icelandic, my father is Norwegian. So I had to kind of decided when I was done with high school, I wanted to go to Norway and study at the university there. So that was kind of my goal. And I moved over to Norway and went to university. I stayed with my father in the beginning. So he was working at the Norwegian Telecom research department.
Nortel.
Well, it was called Televerket at the time. It then became Telenor, which is kind of the name that it changed when it became more private. But anyway, I mean, so I went to Norway. I went to study computer science. I didn't really know what I would do when I grow up. So I was thinking, okay, I'll learn computer science. And my father gave me a kind of advice, said, just study whatever you're interested in. Don't think about what you'll do later because you might end up doing something totally different. And I kind of liked that idea. So, okay, I'll study computer science. I was kind of interested also in management and the like. I read some books on the side, but I was really didn't really know what was going to happen. I had a year in England where I studied as well, just to get a kind of try out being in a different place. And then I got a summer job at my father's work, which was the Norwegian Telecommunication Research Department. And they ended up, I ended up doing my master's there. This is a longer version, but the reason why I'm telling the longer version is sometimes things just happen, and I kind of want to get you all to understand this wasn't anything, nothing was planned, right? Mm-hmm. So I went to the university, I went to the telecommunications company, I did my master's degree as a visiting student there, I then got to work there, and we found this thing called the internet. The World Wide Web. And we stumbled across the World Wide Web while I was working.
Was this 1991?
1992.
1992.
So by the end of 1993, there was 100 web servers in the world. 100. So we were pretty early there in 1992. And we started working with all these ways of working with web technology. So I built a tool to convert FrameMaker documents. FrameMaker was widely used at the time as a word processing tool over to HTML. So that's one of the things we built. We built intranets before the word intranet existed. We built search engines. We're a research company, so that's what we do.
Who's we? Who were the we?
Well, we were 7 people, and we were this group that found the World Wide Web inside the research department. And this research department, Televerket at the time, was state-owned. So they put a certain amount of percentage of their revenues went into research.
Did they back you? Did the government back you in some way?
This wasn't, no, this was basically the government saying parts of the revenues that this telecommunication company was making had to go into research. So we had very free reign at this time, which changed dramatically after I left, because then they decided to make it private, and you had to actually
they didn't put pressure on you, like to do something within a month or 6 months or a quarter, and because in America.
No, this was long-term, which is why the same research department came up with things like mobile telephony, video telephony, Little things like that were actually being researched there. They were one of the inventors of the DSM standards, and they were. You're actually, when you're using video conferencing and video today, you'll be using some of the things that they invented. So, I mean, this is what happens when you're not thinking necessarily just about the next quarter.
Let me just get this. How old were you then?
25?
Okay, so you were young. Did you have visions of starting a company at this point?
No, actually, at the time, I was thinking, okay, I'm having an awful lot of fun here. So the next thing I'll do, I'll take the next step in research, I'll go to MIT. So I was actually going to apply to go into a Ph.D. at MIT. That was my plan. But I was always kind of interested in this business thing. And okay, we built a browser, we built a prototype. Okay, we jumped to the browser here, but basically we were looking at things on the internet, we were looking at ways, and a couple of us, we had built a word processor before, and we kind of thought, hey, we could build a better browser than these guys out there, so why don't we do that? And we spent a lot of time discussing that, whether we should build a browser, and eventually we got a yes inside the group.
So you're going to build it now, wait, now go back. MIT. What about MIT? What happened to MIT plans?
Well, I mean, they got canned.
Why? What do you mean? Why? What happened? Did you go swimming or what happened?
No, actually, what happened then, okay, so we built the web browser inside the resource department, the first initial version, the first 6 months. So we had a prototype, and then there's a question, okay, what do we do with this prototype that we made? And then Televerket, or Telenor as it was getting to be, they spent 6 months evaluating what do we do with this code that these guys made. And they said, well, we don't really want anything, but if they want to do something with it, they can take it and they can found their own company. So they gave us the rights to the work that we had done, and they said, I mean, this is state-owned, so they kind of just said, okay, we'll give you a try. You can go out, you can found your own company. If you fail early, you can get your jobs back.
Oh, yeah, you had a safety net.
I had a safety net. But if you fail inside 3 years, all the rights come back to us. So they had the safety net as well.
So you had a certain amount of guts to do this. You thought 3 years you could do this in 3 years.
Well, I mean, our thinking was just, hey, we're having fun. Let's go and do this.
So when did opera start? I mean, how early? I know you said you took 17 years. When did this, and this is old news, but when did that start?
So basically, the decision to work on the code was summer of '94. That's when we started coding.
The ground floor. I mean, the internet was just, the World Wide Web was just started.
Yeah, I mean, the competition at this time, the big ruler was Mosaic. So the big discussion inside our research group was whether we could compete with Mosaic. And I mean, basically the thinking was no one can compete with the Americans.
What's Mosaic?
Mosaic was the browser that people were using at the time.
Has anyone ever heard of that?
Mosaic.
Firefox, which we use, right?
No, Mosaic was made at the NCSA kind of, a university. So
still around.
They're still around. So they made the browser for their own purposes. I mean, a lot of this was basically the internet, the World Wide Web was made by Tim Berners-Lee, and he was working at CERN in Switzerland. And I mean,
Swiss.
Yeah. Well, he's not Swiss, he's British. But I mean, the basic principle of this, they were building a tool for themselves. Just like, I mean, the tools that we are building, we were building tools for ourselves as well. For the research department, I mean, in the early days of the web, I was making tools to translate documents from FrameMaker, and again, those tools were being used. I was really proud of that. Those were used by MIT, they were used by Ford, they were used by NASA.
So let me say this I'm not a technology guy, but I'm thinking that I couldn't, when I was at BU in the middle of the 90s, I couldn't find anything. There was no Google. Google didn't go Google until 99 or 2000. You couldn't find, I couldn't, other people could, but I couldn't. It's very hard to find something like that. So when you're building a browser, are you thinking, I can build something that can find stuff?
I mean, basically the principle of the browser is to show stuff. So the concept of search was different. Someone else was building, I mean, we built a search as well for fun, right? So we were taking like news sources and we built a filtering algorithm for news sources and the like, so you could get that in and show that on a page. We could then send it out as email or fax or show it as a web page. So we're just thinking about how you use technology, but we were then finding, okay, we built a browser because we think we can and we could. And when we had the first prototype, there was a question, what do we do with it?
Okay, so let me ask you a business question. So you were having fun in the sandbox. You were building this thing. You were thinking, we're having a great time. This is really cool. We can show stuff. So were you even thinking about, does anyone want to use the stuff that you're doing? Were you thinking in a business way about the market? Were you thinking that, wow, this is a lot of people going to want to do this? Were you thinking, because it turned into that, Operahead is, you said you're all over Africa, you're in China, all over the place, ultimately. And were you thinking, what kind of business sense did you have other than the technology sense?
My thinking was build great product. So my background is, I studied computer science, right?
Right.
But my focus is on usability. As a background also, my father is a professor in psychology, specializing on children with disabilities and development psychology and the like. So my thinking from the very beginning is, how do I build software that adapts to your requirements as a user? I mean, I had been building software for my father, which was kind of building for people that had limited ability to move, right? So the thinking from the very beginning was, okay, instead of just building a software that was one way that fits all, because it doesn't, it was how do we adapt to your requirements as a user?
You were thinking about the users.
We're thinking about the user. We're just thinking about, we built a great piece of software and we'll find a way to get it out because it's going to be great. We didn't spend a lot of time doing it. We did eventually because, we founded the company with $7,000 in starting capital, which is the minimum you can do to start a company. And then we were looking at, okay, how do we get this out and the like, and we got some people to help us write a business plan and things like that. But then we were just building the company by ourselves. I mean, in the time that it took us to get our first investors, it was 5 years.
I was going to ask you about that. And private equity investors?
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years? It took 5 years.
5 years.
And then you got some cash.
Well, I mean, because no one thought we could, I mean, come on. So we go and we start there, and the competition quickly was Netscape, and no one could compete with
Netscape.
Yes, Netscape. Now, at the time that we got our first funding, Netscape was gone. Then there was Microsoft. Basically, our competitors, IBM, Oracle, Apple, they all give up because Microsoft was there.
What made you think that you could take on IBM and Apple? You were just a little company in Norway.
Here's the point. When it comes down to it, we're all unique and individual. When you look at, even if you look at someone like, let's say, I tend to use Bill Gates as an example, even, I don't like what Microsoft has done over the years, but that's a separate issue. But Bill Gates comes from a certain town, a certain place, a certain street. So from that point of view, how can a guy coming from that little place in Seattle do anything? Or how can that guy that was Steve Jobs living somewhere in Palo Alto area or whatever.
Dropping out of colleges.
Yeah, I mean, how can that, so to me, it's just, okay, if they can do it, why shouldn't we, are we lesser than them? Is there any particular reason why we shouldn't be able to do what they're doing?
You weren't even afraid to fail. You weren't afraid to fail, were you?
Well, I mean, I wasn't really thinking we would, but but the point was, the thinking was also, you don't have to win. You don't have to have all the users. We just needed a certain amount of users to I mean, it's like a lot of other people that set up a small company. They're thinking about, how can I get by? Okay, if I get so and so many customers paying so and so much, I can get by. And that's kind of where we were thinking.
You also said something to me, and that was so interesting. A whole bunch of things, really. One of them was that a lot of people who are in technology, especially the ones in the Silicon Valley, you decided that you weren't going to go there, and I'm kind of skipping ahead, but going there. we think of the Silicon Valley as the place where all the geeks and geniuses are that built these apps and built these companies and all of that. And you wanted to come here rather than there. And you said something about a couple of things. One, they didn't have a global vision. They didn't think globally, and I want you to explain that to everyone. And the other thing was that they were thinking about kind of their own success, their own importance and success, and how cool they were out there, and they are. But that wasn't where you were thinking about. You were different. That you had a different mindset. So talk about what you think about those Silicon Valley geeks out there compared to the geeks here in New England, and why you picked this place.
Well, I mean, there's a number of reasons why I picked this place, but my thinking has always been that we should adapt to the requirements of the user. And I think in a way that comes somewhat from the Scandinavian thinking. Because when you're living in a small country, you have to adapt to the rest of the world. You can't expect people to speak your language. You can't expect them to adapt to your needs and requirements. So you have to adapt to the rest of the world. And my thinking was always, okay, our little home turf wasn't really never ever going to be something. I mean, that big. There was even an article in a magazine where they ridiculed our business because they said we were trying to kind of build something in Norway for a Norwegian market. Now, the interesting thing, obviously, the person never talked to us. And if the person if that had been our intent, I would have agreed. Because trying to build a business like this with only the focus of the Norway, it wouldn't have worked. So our thinking was always about adapting. But it wasn't necessarily about, okay, we have to become big in the US or big in the West or something. We'll just be big wherever people want us.
So here's another weird thing. I think, I don't mean weird so much, but fascinating to me. You said that you went to Africa with these browsers, that Africa was an adopter of that. And there was not that much money in Africa. So what were you doing? Why were you going to Africa?
So when we started, we started building the browser on the desktop. And again, from the very beginning, our thinking was we adapt to the needs of the user, right? And what we saw was there was a problem with the internet. The problem on mobile internet was that it was slow. And that's one of the reasons why people are saying, okay, we need WAP, right? You need a special internet for the mobile. Our thinking is, no, we want to give the full internet to everyone. And we want to do that so it works on your mobile phone, even on a slow network, even on a slow and inferior phone. Our thinking was everyone deserves to get access to the information and get on the internet. And clearly, when we made a solution like that, the people that were to gain the most were the people that didn't have internet access. If you were already with your computer and you had an internet connection at home and at work, getting additionally something on your phone which had a small screen and it was terribly slow, that wasn't maybe so valuable. But for people in countries where they didn't have access to the internet, where the amount of people that was using the internet was maybe 1% or something, but a lot of them were having mobile phones, and suddenly those people could get on the internet. So that's something I'm really proud of, because by helping people get on the internet in this way, we were influencing the world in a positive.
I mean, when was this? When do you remember around the years
we came with Opera Mini, which is a technology we came up with to actually make a really good browsing experience on the mobile phone.
Right.
In 2005.
2005. So, did you think of yourself as a humanitarian, doing well by doing good? The cliche is giving back and all of that, or do you just think the users? You said you're the users. And when you put everything together, you thought, there's a place where they could really use this. This is what I think you did. You weren't thinking, I'm going to help the world.
Actually, I mean, well, you know what? We were always on a mission. I mean, the reason why we were doing things is because we wanted to make a difference. So everything we did, by adapting to the needs of the individual, we're making a difference. By adapting to the needs of actually very big groups of people, we were making a difference. And our thinking with everything was to build fantastic products that as many people could use as possible. The fact that we were able to do this and sustain 40 to 50% revenue growth every year was fantastic. We can do two things at the same time. We can build a sustainable business by doing good. I don't know. I mean, to me, that's something that there's nothing better than that.
And if you're thinking about making a lot of money, probably Africa is not the place you're going to go. But then you went in China. Now, what I thought, and I think that you corrected me on this, but I'm thinking if I'm a Chinese developer and I'm making some cool software, some cool stuff, the last person I ever want to know about this is Xi Jinping. I don't want the government to know. 1 million Uyghurs are in jail. I don't want anyone to know about this stuff. I'm going to do this. But then you shot me out of the water saying there is really no ultimate privacy. But there you are. Why did opera, this is way before Vivaldi, become popular in China?
Actually, we were not that popular in China. But we were popular just about everywhere else.
So what happened? What happened in China? You were there.
We were in China. Actually, we became, for like Africa and the like, we had like 80% market share, 90% market share. We were, for a lot of people, we were the internet. The same is like in India, Indonesia, and the like. The exception was China, and that's because the Chinese market is different, because the Chinese government has a lot of control. So we didn't get the same distribution there as we got in a number of other countries. So, the product we made was great, but we didn't get the distribution in China because of...
Well, then someone told me, because we have a small faculty of media and communication. It's one of the small departments with a lot of majors. But 3 of us, I don't, use opera. They love this. Oh yeah, we use it. And then they asked me questions and all of that. And someone said, Nintendo. What about, how many of you, the younger people use Nintendo? Well, it's probably not the generation, because my son did this. Nintendo, it wasn't my thing. It wasn't mine, but I watched it. And what about it works well with Nintendo? Tell me about the Nintendo story.
Well, the Nintendo story starts with a Japanese story. And if I can actually tell a slightly longer version of it, because it is interesting. We were hiring students because we liked foreign students that were coming in, and then we were having them look at their own home markets.
When you were in opera, you mean?
Yes. Yeah. So one of these guys, he was Japanese, and he looked at the Japanese market. So we managed to get into the Japanese market, and we started to have quite a bit of following in Japan, which then led to us having our first phone. And I remember when they came with the phone, they sent us the prototype, and the prototype actually had our logo on a button, and they said Opera browser phone on the back. We thought they were just being...
You made a phone?
No, they made it. Kyocera made a phone.
Okay.
But the reality, we got a following among the tech community. And through this, we got a really strong position, which led to us getting a deal with KDDI, which was the second biggest operator in Japan. And we were kind of getting into a lot of phones. And then came Nintendo. And it was fantastic, because we went into the meeting, and the guys that were on the other side, it was very clear that it's the tech guys. They really liked us. And for them, it was a question of, okay, no name and opera. And so we got into Nintendo, and we worked with Nintendo. We got into the Nintendo DS, we got into the Nintendo Wii. So we got incorporated into those devices. And Nintendo is a fantastic company with a lot of innovation. So one of those companies where, when we were working with them, it wasn't just us trying to stop our customer destroying our products, because that's, for example, we built a browser for Motorola. They would spec it, any details, and it would be terrible at the end.
That's right. Were they trying to steal some of your ideas?
No. What I liked about it is Nintendo had a lot of creativity. So they had good ideas, we had good ideas, and together we built great products.
So you worked well with the Japanese company. You were cooperating with each other and helping each other.
It was a great. Nintendo as a company, I have a lot of respect for. they've been through, they have some pretty tough competitors, but they managed to innovate and come up with solutions. I got to play with the Wii long before it came to market, and I was so thrilled with what they were doing. It was fantastic technology.
How many people use Wii? Right? Everyone, you know, or like quite amazing. And that was really something.
So, I mean, we still have this relationship with Japan, and at Vivaldi, I mean, Japan is our #1 country, and which is a special feeling.
You had a big part of the market there. You were early with them, right?
Well, I mean, I think it's just, there's a lot of Japanese that are really into technology, and they really understand technology, and a number of them, they've taken to like what we did at opera, and they like what we do at Vivaldi, so.
Okay, so in every story, in every business story, in every life story, things are exciting in the beginning, and then they're challenging, and then inevitably there's a problem. There's a, if not a crisis, sometimes it's a crisis, a problem, and that's what makes stories interesting, the drama, that nothing lasts forever. So at some point, you were building opera for almost a couple of decades, but then at some point, something didn't go well. Nothing lasts forever, but you ran into problems. You were uncomfortable at some point with what was happening at opera. And yet that led to something at Vivaldi's, led you to change. So what was it when you come and people are here thinking of starting companies, going to last forever, nothing does, you know, problems, you have to solve them. What went wrong at opera? What did you see that you didn't like? And let me tell you something. I remember I was teaching a Starbucks case at Harvard. I remember one that Howard Schultz went into one of the Starbucks about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and he just smelled this burning bagel. And he wasn't even the CEO then. He had started it, and it was someone else was CEO, Jim something or other. And he didn't like it, and he closed all the stores. He didn't like what happened. He didn't like the way it smelled. He didn't like the feeling of it. And he just wanted to make a change. And then he took over as CEO. So there was something that and this is a great big business, right? So there's something that happened with you that you didn't like that was going on at opera. What was it?
So, I mean, basically, we were doing really well as a company. And we, like I told you, we got the investors after 5 years. And then we had a couple of rounds of investment. And clearly, I knew that when I was getting investors in, the point was I had done a deal, which I had to provide an exit. The exit was then provided as promised in 2004. So in 2004, we went public.
On the
Norwegian Stock Exchange. So from that time on, we were following, basically...
Well, can I say this? I'm sorry, just a detail. Because I remember this from Netscape. Somehow in my brain, I remember, I was doing investor relations, Netscape, the investment banker said, you go out at 21. At the end of the day, there were $71 a share. $71 a share. What did you go out at when you went public?
We went at 10 NOK, and actually, we didn't go up much or anything. Actually, there was even a crash in a bomb in Spain the same day.
Oh yeah, the trains, the thing, 2005, wasn't it, something like that?
This is 2004. So, but in any case, so we're going public, and what happens when you go public is that the investors, they sell their shares, right? Because the investment money we got in early, those are venture guys.
You build a huge
company. So they sell their shares because that's what venture is supposed to do. Now in our case, there were two venture companies. One of them sold their shares, the other one didn't. The problem was we had some investors that actually then wanted to keep hold of their stocks. And these were investors from hell.
What do you mean?
Basically, they believed that we should sell because that would be the right thing for the company to do. They wanted us to put up a for sale sign.
To sell off the assets of the company?
Yes. because they were believing that that would be a better return.
They didn't believe in your company. They believed in.
They believed that we had assets. Now the problem is for them is that we actually had 40 to 50% revenue growth every year and increasing profitability. So it wasn't so easy for them to generate noise, but they were still making our lives miserable. And after 7 years of this, I was starting to get tired.
You were sorry that you went public.
No.
You weren't.
No.
Despite this.
No, I mean, if I hadn't gone public, I would have had the investors in anyway, right? It wasn't a question of going public. I mean, for me, I went through going public and I kept running the company in the same way. We were a company on a mission. We were trying to make a difference in the world. And as long as we were providing the returns, I would think that's fine. Now the stock would go up and down because the stock doesn't necessarily follow kind of your returns or the like. But I mean, as a company, we were doing really well. And we were becoming gradually more and more visible. But they were thinking that has to end at some stage. Better sell them before it's too late. And
you made a deal with the devil, that's what you did.
No, the guys that I made a deal with were not the guys that I ended up having as investors.
What do you mean?
Because it's the VC guys, they were nice. I mean, actually, I'm really...
The venture capital people were good people, but these investors were, they were just looking at you as dinner, right?
We got some, and I mean, there's just the reality. Investors are like normal people, right?
I guess.
You can have good ones, you can have bad ones, and these guys, their problem is they've never worked in a company before. They've never done anything before. They inherited some money, and they thought that they would know better how to. So for some reason, I guess because they had money, they were thinking, okay, we can go in and invest companies and tell them how to run the company.
Well, and of course you were thinking, weren't you thinking, why did I do this? Why did I get in bed with these people who are driving me crazy?
No, again, I mean, I'm a really positive guy, and everything that I do is always look up and then look for getting things done. I mean, it was tiring because I had to deal with those issues, but my focus was, okay, we're competing with some pretty large companies out there. Let's go out there and then just build great products and compete with them. And again, we were continuously growing the company, and we were in a competitive environment. We had managed to be the #1 player in mobile, #1 mobile browser.
Yeah.
We had #1 TV browser. We were #1 on PCs in certain markets, like in Russia and in Belarus and the like, and significant markets here and other markets. And we were doing that by providing really good products. So I was proud of that, and again, we were profitable. We had plenty of money in the bank. We had no debt. So we're doing a lot of things right, and we had a fantastic company culture. We were keeping people inside the company. So I think we were doing a lot of things right. But there was this push from the outside to do things differently, and I mean, things like, okay, introduce bonus programs, which
incentive bonus programs. So it was about the money part.
Well, I mean, they wanted us incentivized to sell the company. They were furious with me when I would get questions about, okay, they are saying, okay, you want to sell the company? I would say, no, we're not looking to sell the company. If a bid comes in, the investors will evaluate it. That would be my standard answer. They hated that answer.
They wanted to manage you.
Yes.
And it's like so irritating. And so at some point, in any bad relationship, you've got to say usually, I don't know what you did, but it's not you, it's me. So you divorced them at some point and left. How did you get rid of them, but I mean, how did you end this? It never ends that easy.
I mean, it was a difficult thing. I mean, the point was, it was difficult for me, and it was difficult for a lot of people around me. And I was thinking, maybe it's better that I actually take a leave and I do something else. And initially, I was going to stick around as an advisor to the new CEO and inside the company. And I was thinking maybe that worked. The reason why I thought it might work is because the guy that was taking over my job was my head of sales. I'd known him for years, and he said, Jon, I'll listen to you. I mean, that's not going to change. Now, obviously, as soon as he was CEO, that was not the case anymore. I stuck around for 18 months. That was a mistake. And then I quit the company. And my thinking then was, okay, what do I want to do now? So I left.
This was when?
This is 2011.
Okay.
So my thinking at the time was, okay, I don't really know what I will want to do. I was thinking, I'll move somewhere. And there's two reasons for that. One, I wanted to try out living somewhere else. And two,
You were in Oslo?
I was in Oslo. The point is, I like the idea of living somewhere else and trying something else. But secondly, it was pretty tough to look at my company being destroyed. And a lot of my friends being fired and the like, and I had a special relationship with all the employees that we had at the company. And they were coming over to me and they were basically, they were crying on my shoulder. And that's not an easy thing to watch. So I was thinking, okay, I'll do something else. I always try to look at a way to make things positive.
And when did Vivaldi start?
That happens a couple of later. I wanted, because you were asking me how I ended up here.
Yes.
And I'm coming back to that question now. Because I spent 6 months evaluating my options.
Where to live?
Where to live. I drove around France, I drove around UK, I looked at different parts of the US and I ended here. The reason why I ended up here is it's really nice.
No, it's raining and it's snowing and icy. You're from Iceland.
Yes, I'm from Iceland. I'm from Iceland, I'm from Norway, and I didn't want, you go to California, it's sunny and warm.
Why did you go there? What was wrong with you? Why didn't you go to a sunny, warm place?
Because you want seasons.
Oh. Seasons.
I want seasons, and so does my family. And we wanted seasons, and we wanted, slightly better weather, slightly warmer than in Norway and in Iceland. You guys complain a lot about the weather.
Yes.
You don't know what you're talking about.
We hate the weather.
So it's really nice here. There are nice people, and I was also thinking here, I didn't know what I would do. Maybe I'd go to Harvard, Kennedy School or something. Maybe I was going to MIT. Maybe I was going to work with startup. I had no idea. I started investing a bit in Iceland. I invested in some startups. I have a dairy company. I have a telco, a few other kind of things.
And you're up there. This beautiful. I was thinking when Julie and I were driving up, it was like going up to William Randolph Hearst's place up in Hearst Castle. Beautiful on the ocean. You have these beautiful. Looking over there, and I was thinking, why are you not in Kendall Square or Cambridge? You're up there in this gorgeous place up there.
Actually, part of what I was doing when I was evaluating the options was actually I started looking around Kendall Square and there, and then I kind of just looked further, and then I found, hey, this is a nice place.
It is a nice place. It's pretty up there.
Yeah, it's pretty and it's nice, and again, that's why we ended up going there. They're friendly people, and it's calmer when you get out there. People are just friendly. They say hi in the street. They stop for you in traffic. It's really nice. They're really nice people there, and then we just enjoy their company.
In Boston, people are very mean and nasty, and
actually, Boston they're pretty nice, but their traffic is pretty
terrible
in comparison. But so that's why we're coming here, and then a couple of years later, and that's when Vivaldi starts. And so basically, what I'm seeing there is that my company is throwing away all the work that we had done, right? So we built products that were all about the user, putting the user first. Everything we did was how do we build something that the users will enjoy? And then we had spent 19 years building that, and then they just said, okay, we'll save some money by throwing away that code, using some other code, and then going with a totally different philosophy when it comes to the product. Basically utilizing data to decide, okay, what are people using and not using, and throwing away everything. They ended up with very bare bones product. And it's very much against what we're doing. So I was in this strange situation thinking, okay, what will I do now? So the products that he's built, spent 19 years working, they're throwing it away, they're using the same brand. I was thinking I would use the same brand forever, but it was going somewhere totally different. The users were asking me, can you not do something about this? And there was nothing I could do at Opera. They even threw away our social network. And we had a social networking site with 35 million registered members, which they thought, hey, we can save money and just use Facebook instead. I mean, you have 35 million people that have signed up your account and you throw it away to save money. It's so stupid. It's anyway. So I felt with all those users that it helped us grow Opera. I mean, they helped us grow the company. Without them, we wouldn't have, because it was all word of mouth. We didn't have marketing money, but we grew through providing products that people liked, and they shared with their friends.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have money to advertise. I mean, not in comparison to the others. So basically, what we did, we just provided great products, and people shared it with their friends, and that worked. I mean, that's how we got our users.
So is that Vivaldi? Is that what happened with Vivaldi?
That's happening with Vivaldi as well. So we built Opera this way by just focusing on what the end users want. And now we're doing the same with Vivaldi. We're producing a browser that is putting your needs central.
Right, let me just switch for a moment, because a little while we want some audience questions. Your daughter is what do you want for her future? I mean, you have three.
I have three kids.
Three. And how old are they?
The oldest is 22.
22,
and
and
17 and 15.
And what do you want? Do you want her to do what you're doing, or do you care? Does it
I
matter?
want her to do what she wants to do.
Okay. What do you think she wants to do? Do you know? I don't know.
I think she's finding out. I mean, she definitely wants to make a difference. And I think that's a positive thing. I mean, she's been talking about wanting to make a difference with the environment. She's kind of looked at different things where she just wants to stand up for people that, or causes. So she wants to work with causes and making a difference. She's wanted to work with through marketing. And
you're not a helicopter parent, are you? You're like over. You know what a helicopter parent is? Where you're always asking how you're doing, what are your grades, how you're doing. You let her be, right?
I mean, I do. What I want for my children is for them to be happy.
So
that's what matters to me.
Now, does the audience have some questions? We can do that. Yes, Counselor, City Councilor.
Thank you for being here. My question is regarding the future. How do you see technology?
Can everyone hear? Can everyone hear?
Okay, great. I mean, you're a visionary. I know that you saw it from. You mentioned 1992 to now. We're in 2019. How do you see technology now getting to what? Because it seems to be so fast. At the end of the day, are we getting something stuck here, or we continue to?
I saw a presentation where there was the claim was that technology develops exponentially, and there's probably something to that. I mean, technology is moving really, really quickly, and we're going to be continuing to see a lot of development in the next few years. At the same time, I think it's really important to think about where do we want that to go. And I think, for me, I've dedicated my life to get people on the internet and in the best possible ways. And that's because I believe that getting people access to information and services on an equal basis is something that's worthwhile fighting for. I do see certain problems. I see things being misused. I see things, someone forgot about privacy. I think it had something to do with everyone was told that because of security needs, we had to drop privacy. I think we have a significant problem, and I think the lack of privacy is a security problem that needs to be resolved. But other than that, I'm really focused on, I think we'll see a lot of interesting technology changes in the next few years. And both in the case of health, in the case of automation, being able to drive cars automatically, reduce the level of deaths in traffic that we are seeing. I mean, for example, here in the US, we're talking tens of thousands that die in traffic every year. A lot of those could have been avoided with technology. So I think there's a lot of progress to be coming in the years to come. At the same time, we have to look at every technology and look at, is it being used in the right way, or should we regulate it to ensure that the technology continues to be a positive force for our society?
Other questions? Questions?
I have one.
Yes.
Alex, I'm an alumni here at computer science, so I got to ask, in the 90s when you were developing Opera 1.0, were you writing in C, C++?
I was writing in C++, yeah. So I mean, initially when we were doing I was really lucky, and my co-founder was brilliant. I think I was I think I was a good coder. I always considered myself to be kind of pretty good at this, but my co-founder, he was in a different league, and then that's when you realize, okay, that's what happens sometimes. My focus was the user interface, so I wrote the user interface of the original opera and continued coding, and I'm still engaging in the discussions. But yeah.
How many of you are from computer science? How many from business, management, marketing, all of that? Any business questions, all that? I mean, anybody from there? Anybody have a question about that? Yes.
How did you initially find like investors if they come to you?
I mean, it took a really long time. It is kind of interesting because, you know, every story of a successful startup is a story of investment that didn't happen. I mean, if you talk to Larry and Sergi, and there's the talk of they tried to sell the search algorithm for like $750,000.
Larry, you mean Google?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you have Microsoft that were trying to sell their company to IBM multiple times for relatively small amounts of money, which never happened. In our case, there's quite a few close ones. The first one was in 1996, where we had actually an intention agreement with an investor that was going to invest in us. And so we signed the agreement in the afternoon, and the next morning he called me because they also had the modem company. And he said, you know, I called our modem company and I asked them if they would bundle your browser, and they wouldn't. So maybe we should just drop the browser thing and we should just build a kind of a web technology company which built websites. They had obviously sold us on the idea that they were really long-term investors, and I guess we weren't impressed that the long-term was less than 24 hours. So we ended up not doing that deal. Then there was the deal where we were discussing with a mobile company about investing in us. That didn't happen, luckily. Then there was an outright deal. Sun Microsystem wanted to buy us. They offered us quite a lot of money. We said no. And I'm thinking timing-wise, I think timing-wise, this is a time when my co-founder had already been diagnosed with cancer. So you could have understood that we would have said yes at the time, but he said, no, I don't really want that. So we didn't sell to Sun, which was nice. And then we had a few other deals, close calls like this. And then, so 5 years later, we were at the time, we had already, because up until that time, people would just say, who do you think you are? You're competing with Microsoft and kind of all these other companies. I mean, you have no chance.
But you were in the water swimming out there for a day.
Well, that's later.
Okay.
So, but the reality, this is 1999, and we had built a brilliant piece of code. It was really a masterpiece of code. And what we found is our code was so efficient, we could actually take our code and we could have it run on something else. So we discovered, okay, we can have this run on a mobile device. This is 1999, and we were suddenly able to do something that no one else was really able to do, was to build a decent browser on a mobile device. Every other browser is built on more or less the same code base from scratch. So, so we were unique there, and so at the time that we got our investors, it was basically because we had proven that we were starting to deal with large companies.
Yeah, you know what I'm getting also from hearing you talk about this is that how important it was to have control of the creativity and innovation. Every time people tried to come in and say, well, you know, let's do the browser, but let's do something else, or that you have, you know, belied by your mild-mannered, you know, your way of speaking. There's an intensity, isn't there, about the way that you're not taking this from me. I'm going to be doing this. You know, people came in and there wasn't a match. You know, you just don't want any investor. Wow, a couple of million, that's great. No, it wasn't like that for you. You just wanted to do. You know what you wanted to do, and that seems to be something about being an entrepreneur. There any entrepreneur people in here? Anybody in the entrepreneurship program in here? So can I, as a professor, I'm terrible, I call on people. What do you make of this? What do you think from entrepreneurship?
What do you mean, like the whole, like...
How do you listen to this?
It definitely helps me because, like, I'm someone that wants to start a business after I graduate, so just hear how you started your business and, like, just all the details, just everything like that really helps me, like, figure out where to start.
Is he scaring you? Was that but or inspiring in a way?
Definitely inspiring, yes, for sure.
Why did you want to start a business? Am I terrible putting someone on the spot like this? Is it terrible? Is it awful? Yes. Question. Comment.
I want to just to understand your mindset. You knew you were doing something right, was good, and the investor coming in, they want you to change the way you do things. And how did you spend the nights thinking of, oh, this is good, but how did you manage it? And I'm asking this question because I used to publish a female magazine. It was just black and white, but we didn't have color back in my country. So I got people with money. They have money, but no idea. So they would come like, oh, you know what, girl, we're gonna do this and that, and we're gonna print it in colors. So I will accept, but after like a month, I see like I'm working for them. It's no longer my product. So, and I feel vulnerable. And at the same time, I wanted to get better and everywhere because the new people could sell it, place it everywhere. And how did you manage that just to keep your, because I was frustrated, sometimes I couldn't sleep at night. I wanted to be good. Same time, I don't want to lose it. And I feel like I don't have to run.
What a great question. That's such a great question. How did you, tug back and forth and sleepless? Did you have sleepless nights?
I'm not much into being sleepless. No, I mean, I think my focus was just on building the company, right? So on the one side, I didn't get investors in until after 5 years. And during this time, I tended to joke about every time we hire a new person, it's like it's my first time of running people with X+1 number of people. So I was learning on the way, dealing with having more and more people, having offices around the world, then going public, dealing with talking to investors, talking to media, visiting the offices. So, I mean, my focus, my frustration with the investors that I had is they were bothering me while I was trying to run a company. Because I mean they had their teams, they were really active, so they were being pains in the ass. But I mean, my point was I had a lot of really talented people that I had working with me and we were running the company together. And I believe in a flat structure. So we were all going towards the same goals and we were trying to get things working. So my point was, I want to focus on building the company. I want to get the products out, do the deals that we're doing. It was a lot of fun to do deals with Nintendo and Nokia and Ericsson and Motorola and all these other companies that we're doing deals with and building great products. So we were having a lot of fun on the way.
Too much fun to be sleepless. I'm going to have to wind up now. Wind this up. Are you going to do this?
I'm not going to say any more except that we have refreshments and encourage you all to stay. And hopefully Jan can spend a few more minutes with talking to you individually. I want to thank him for sharing his story of doing what he loves and making the world a better place. So thank you, Rob, for sharing your time as well and getting him to tell all those great stories.
Swimming, everything, investors, all of it.
Jan, we know where to find you there near Gloucester, so you'll be hearing from us. And thank you for your time
so much.
and sharing everything. Stay and mingle and have some light refreshments and thank everybody for coming. Thanks so much.
Dear audience, thank you for listening to the Salem State University Viking Voices podcast. Join us soon for another episode to hear more about the many great things going on at this exciting institution and among the alumni community. Want to be a part of the many exciting things going on today at Salem State? There are many chances during the academic year to join Viking efforts to improve our communities, network with fellow alumni, students, faculty, community leaders, and to just have fun. Many of these events are free and open to the public. For a complete listing of events during the 2018-19 academic year, please visit salemstate.edu/calendar. Whether your passions run to arts, culture, politics, sports, and more, there's something for every taste. Examples this semester include premiering November 29th and running through December 9th, the Sophia Gordon Center for the Creative and Performing Arts features Poison of Choice. This theatrical performance places the audience inside a graphic novel in a world that reeks of political corruption, sex, murder, addiction, and plenty of moral ambiguity. On December 6th, public historians and scholars Cheryl Harned and Matthew Barlow will share their research on issues of trauma and memory at Viking Hall, Central Campus from 4:30 to 6. The Alto Voce Treble Chorus presents a concert version of Humperdinck's classic opera Hansel and Gretel on December 10th from 7:30 to 9. December 15th and 16th, the Salem Dance Ensemble presents its end-of-semester concert featuring original choreography by dance students, dance faculty Betsy Miller, as well as guest choreographer Aisha Upchurch. This event takes place at the Sophia Gordon Center from 7:30 to 9. In sports this fall, competitions in basketball, field hockey, ice hockey, soccer, tennis, and more take place. Some sporting events require a modest entrance fee that goes to support the athletic programs. Upcoming at the O'Keefe Center, on December 4, men's ice hockey takes on Connecticut College. Men's basketball faces MIT on December 6. December 8, women's ice hockey meets New England College, while at the same night, women's basketball will give their all against Endicott College. These are just a few of the highlights of the fall 2018 semester. Remember, you can check out all the events at salemstate.edu/calendar. Another way to be a part and to be a force in the expansion and continuation of the mission of Salem State University is to donate to the Salem State Foundation. The foundation, incorporated in 1977, is a 501(c) private not-for-profit organization. Contributions to the foundation directly support Salem State's mission to provide high-quality, student-centered education that prepares a diverse community of learners to contribute responsibly and creatively to a global society. And the foundation serves as a resource to advance the region's cultural, social, and economic development. For more information on the foundation, please visit salemstate.edu/alumni-and-friends/Salem-State-Foundation. Fellow Vikings and those interested in Salem State University, we hope that you have enjoyed this edition of the Salem State University Viking Voices podcast. Please remember that you can follow SSU Viking Voices podcast almost anywhere you get your podcasts, and you can subscribe on iTunes. Please use social media to give us your likes, send us your comments, share us as appropriate. Thank you for listening. This is Guy Clinch wishing you all a very Viking day.